Have you ever wondered why some people don't chase validation, but the world still watches their every move? They speak less, they show less, and yet their presence dominates. It's not luck, it's not charm. It's something colder, something forged in silence. Confidence isn't born in crowds, it's carved alone. When no one is clapping, when no one is watching, when your only audience is your discipline. The weak want to be seen, the strong want control, and control starts in the mind. When you kill the craving to please, when you stop needing permission to exist, that's when confidence stops being an act and becomes your nature. They teach you to smile more, talk more, share more. But what if the real power is found in saying nothing, in observing, in becoming unreadable? Your mind is either a weapon or a weakness, and if you don't train it to obey you, it will betray you. If you're ready to become dangerous in silence, comment this below: silence sharpens me. This is Stoic Spark, and this is the beginning of your mental ascent. Number 1, breaking the slave mindset. You were trained to obey long before you knew what freedom was. Told to be agreeable, told to fit in, told to care what others think, as if their approval was oxygen. That conditioning wasn't education, it was programming. They taught you how to be liked, not how to be powerful. So now you smile when you should be silent. You apologize when you should be advancing. And worst of all, you doubt your own instincts because they don't match the crowd. But here's the truth. The more you depend on external voices, the weaker your internal voice becomes. The mind ruled by others is a slave in disguise. No chains, no whips, just quiet obedience to invisible masters. Confidence doesn't come from being accepted, it comes from being free, from rejecting the script they handed you, from unlearning their rules and writing your own. Your power begins the moment you stop asking for permission to think differently. So if you're ready to break the slave code that runs the modern mind, comment this: I obey no voice but my own. Now, let's go deeper. Number 2, discipline over emotion. You cannot lead yourself if you're led by your emotions. Anger, desire, doubt. They feel real in the moment, but they are nothing more than chemical storms, and a storm has no loyalty. That's why weak minds chase impulse. They lash out, they break down, they beg to be understood. But you don't react, you respond. You observe your emotions like a scientist studies fire. Fascinated, but never burned. The man who acts from discipline, not emotion, cannot be predicted. And if you cannot be predicted, you cannot be controlled. They want you emotional for a reason, because the moment you're triggered, you're readable. And once you're readable, you're no longer dangerous. So stop feeding the fire. Start sharpening the blade. Master your moods, because the mind that controls itself controls the game. If you feel that shift happening inside you, comment this below: I lead my emotions, they don't lead me. You're not here to feel everything. You're here to rise above it. Number 3, the power of strategic detachment. You gain control the moment you stop needing it. Attachment is the root of most internal suffering, not because love, loyalty, or desire are wrong, but because dependence makes you vulnerable. And the mind that depends, bends. You attach yourself to outcomes, to people, to narratives you think define who you are. And slowly, without realizing it, you give them power over your emotional state. That's not strength, that's submission. And you can't dominate anything externally until you've divorced yourself from needing it internally. Most people don't break under pressure because of the pressure itself. They break because of what they're afraid to lose. Their identity is stitched into things outside their control. And when those things shift, they fall apart. You want peace? Detach. You want clarity in the chaos? Detach. You want to stop being controlled by the things that once seduced you? Detach completely until you can sit in silence without needing validation. Until you can walk away from what doesn't align without mourning it. Strategic detachment isn't indifference. It's precision. It's choosing to rise above the emotional static so you can see the game for what it really is. A series of illusions designed to pull you in, drain you, and keep you weak. They'll call you cold. They'll say you've changed. They'll label your silence as arrogance, your distance as selfishness. Let them. The stronger you become, the more uncomfortable your evolution will be. For those still chained to emotional chaos, emotional detachment is not the death of feeling. It's the birth of freedom. It's choosing not to act on every impulse, not to explain yourself to every confused mind, and not to fight battles that serve no purpose. This is where your power sharpens, not by adding more noise, but by subtracting everything that controls you. You're not here to attach. You're here to evolve, to observe, to move with purpose, not permission. So train yourself to walk away without the need to look back. Train yourself to remain silent when chaos demands a reaction. Train yourself to let go of anyone or anything that clouds your clarity. If you're ready to let go of everything that dilutes your dominance, comment this below. I release what weakens me. You're not becoming heartless. You're becoming ruthless with your peace. The shift is happening. Now stay cold, stay sharp. Number 4, silence is a weapon. Silence is not emptiness. It is precision. It is presence without permission. It is power that doesn't beg to be seen because it already knows its effect. The loudest voice in the room is rarely the strongest. It's usually the most insecure. Noise is used to distract, to prove, to impress. But silence forces the room to interpret you, to speculate, to wonder where your mind is and what you're planning. You want psychological dominance? Learn to say less. In every room, people are giving away their advantage through overexposure. Oversharing, over-explaining. They confuse vulnerability for strategy. But the more people know, the more they can use. A silent mind is unreadable, and an unreadable person is unpredictable, and unpredictability is power. Most are afraid of silence because it reveals who they truly are. So they fill the void with chatter, with constant movement, with validation-seeking noise. They fear stillness because it confronts them. But if you can sit with silence, own it, control it, weaponize it, you are no longer among them. You are above them. Let others argue to be heard. Let them interrupt, react, defend. You listen. You gather. You observe weakness through their words. You spot desperation in their need to be understood. And then you strike, if you even need to. Because the silent ones don't need to speak often. When they do, people listen. Silence triggers imagination. It forces others to create stories about you. And when you control the unknown, you control their perception without lifting a finger. That's the kind of influence you're building now. Cold, strategic, free from the addiction to be heard. You don't speak to prove anything. You speak only to move things. That's how leaders emerge. That's how kings operate. That's how psychological warfare is won. Be so silent, your absence screams. Be so composed, your quiet unnerves them. And be so mentally still that their chaos cannot touch you. If you're ready to use silence as your sharpest blade, comment this below. My silence speaks louder than their noise. Let them talk. Let them guess. Let them wonder. While you sharpen your mind in silence and prepare to control the room without a word. Number 5. the art of being unreadable. Power doesn't always come from dominance. Sometimes it comes from mystery. The less they know, the more they imagine. And the more they imagine, the more control you quietly hold. In a world obsessed with visibility, those who remain unreadable become dangerous. If they can read your face, they can trace your weakness. If they can track your tone, they can manipulate your state. If they know what you want, they know how to control you. And that's exactly why most people stay stuck. Not because they lack talent, but because they broadcast everything. They speak before thinking. They react instead of observing. They need to be understood more than they need to be in control. But the moment you stop oversharing, the moment you learn to pause before speaking, the moment you realize that mystery creates power, you separate yourself from the herd. Being unreadable isn't about being fake. It's about being deliberate. It's about developing the kind of internal control that lets you feel deeply, but never impulsively. You move with calm precision. You speak with calculated weight, and you reveal only what strengthens your position. When someone tries to provoke you, you don't flinch. When someone tries to pry, you give them surface-level answers. When someone tries to define you, you give them nothing concrete to hold on to, because the less they know, the more they project. And their projections are their weakness, not yours. This is the true art of psychological warfare. Let them believe they understand you, while you stay 5 moves ahead, unshaken and unbothered. In strategy, predictability is death, because the predictable mind can be gamed. It can be baited, lured, emotionally cornered. But the unreadable mind, it becomes a void they can't penetrate, a mirror that reflects their own confusion, a riddle they can't solve. You don't owe the world your thoughts. You don't owe anyone your reasoning. You owe yourself power. And power is preserved through restraint. Let them talk. Let them speculate. Let them misread you. Every wrong assumption they make becomes a move you didn't have to make. You never give away your playbook. You let them play blind while you see everything. So be the one they can't predict. Be the one who listens more than he speaks. Be the one they talk about in rooms you never enter, because your silence echoes louder than their noise. If you're ready to master the art of psychological invisibility, comment this below. They can't read what I don't reveal. You are no longer here to be understood. You're here to be unshakable, unseen, and unstoppable. Let confusion work in your favor, while you move in absolute clarity. Number 6. Kill the need to be liked. The fastest way to lose your edge is to want to be liked. Approval is the invisible leash. You don't see it, but it pulls your words, your posture, your entire presence toward weakness. You think you're being kind, you think you're building connection, but deep down, you're negotiating with your own power, just to feel accepted by people who don't even respect themselves. They taught you early, be agreeable, be polite, don't rock the boat. But what they never told you is that boats don't move unless they're rocked. And agreeable men don't rise. They blend, they bend, and they break. You think likability opens doors. It doesn't. Fear does. Respect does. A reputation for silence, for control, for unpredictability. That's what opens doors, or keeps them guarded. There is no true confidence without detaching from the need to be liked. Because as long as you need approval, you will subconsciously adjust to get it. You'll over-explain. You'll hesitate before speaking your mind. You'll shrink in rooms that require presence, not politeness. You can't be strategic when you're emotional about perception. You can't be feared if you're addicted to validation. And you cannot be respected if your decisions are influenced by the imaginary scoreboard of public opinion. You don't need to be rude, but you must be indifferent, polished, measured, unmoved by praise and immune to criticism. Because both are just forms of manipulation. Praise makes you soft. Criticism makes you reactive. Both hand your control to someone else. Once you kill the need to be liked, you become different. You speak less, but with more weight. You make decisions faster because you're no longer calculating how they'll be received, and you move through life like a ghost in their system. Present, but untouchable. People will sense it. They'll either fear you or misunderstand you. Let them. You are not here to be their friend. You are here to be respected and, if necessary, remembered as a storm. If approval is your oxygen, they control your breath. But once you learn to breathe in your own silence, you become untouchable. Kill the need to be liked, and you kill half of what holds you back. If you're ready to walk through life with nothing to prove and no one to please, comment this below. I don't need to be liked. I need to be free. Let the others chase popularity. Let them beg for attention, applause, and fake smiles. You're building something else. Power, control, a mind that bows to no crowd. Number 7. Emotional control is psychological armor. You're not powerful because you feel nothing. You're powerful because nothing controls what you feel. There's a difference between feeling and flinching, between having emotions and being ruled by them. And here's the truth nobody teaches you growing up. He who controls your emotions controls you. And most people, by that logic, are already owned. They flinch when criticized. They fold under pressure. They explode at disrespect. They chase apologies. They beg to be understood. They think they're expressing realness. But they're just confirming to the world how easy they are to move. They are readable. And once you're readable, you're predictable. And once you're predictable, you're powerless. You want to become untouchable? You need to become emotionally armored, not dead inside, not numb, but composed, calculating, calm under fire. This isn't self-help. This is psychological warfare. This is surviving in a world designed to provoke you so they can control you. And if you still believe being emotionally open is a virtue in every setting, you haven't been in the rooms where power is negotiated in silence, where deals are made with looks, not words, where the man who speaks first always loses ground. Train yourself to hold your stare when disrespected. Train yourself to listen without interrupting, even when you're boiling inside. Train yourself to walk out of betrayal without slamming the door, because the one who controls himself controls the frame. And the frame controls reality. Most people don't realize this. Emotions are data. They are signals, but they are not commands. Anger is data. Fear is data. Insecurity is data. But only weak minds act on every spike of emotion. You don't ignore what you feel. You observe it, like a tactician studies the battlefield. You ask, is this worth engaging? Is there leverage in this moment? Does this benefit my long-term position, or is it a trap? Every emotional outburst is a loss of position. Every reactive response is a leak in your power, and over time, those leaks drown you in regret, drama, and damage. But control compounds. One day of control becomes 1 week. A week becomes a month. A month becomes your new identity. Until one day, you're no longer reacting. You're watching, reading, setting the pace, owning the narrative. And the people around you, they begin to notice. You become a mirror. They see themselves in your calm. They feel naked in your presence. Because when you're no longer giving them feedback, they start wrestling with their own projection. That's when the power flips. Suddenly, the loudest person in the room sounds childish. The reactive one looks unstable, and you sit in silence like a mountain, and silence becomes the tension. Understand something. People don't fear emotions, they fear the absence of them. When they insult you and get no reaction, they panic. When they lie and you don't call them out, they wonder what you're planning. When they cross the line and you stay calm, they begin to fear a consequence they can't see. Because calm minds plan in silence, and silence holds more power than rage ever could. Let others post their outbursts. Let them rant. Let them broadcast their drama. They think the world respects their authenticity. But all they're really doing is confirming their instability. Because in reality, power doesn't speak often. It doesn't explain itself. It doesn't whine. It watches. It waits. And then it moves with precision. Be honest. How often have you regretted the words you said in emotion? How often did you want to take back a message, an outburst, a decision you made in heat? Now ask yourself, how often have you regretted being calm? Exactly. The cost of emotional reaction is heavy. It burns bridges you may need later. It exposes vulnerabilities you'll wish you'd hidden. It hands your opponent your playbook while they keep theirs closed. But calm buys you space. Calm gives you leverage. Calm keeps your options open, while everyone else is already bleeding out from self-inflicted wounds. Imagine this. Two men sit at a negotiation table. One raises his voice, slams his hand, demands attention. The other, he just sits back, silent, observing. No fear, no defense, no need to dominate. Who's in control? It's not the louder one. It's the one who's choosing not to react, the one whose silence forces the other to second-guess everything. That's emotional control in action. That's what you're becoming. You see, confidence built on praise is fake. Power built on attention is shallow. But power built on inner control, that's permanent. That doesn't fade when people stop clapping. It doesn't crumble when you're alone. It doesn't panic when you're attacked. It endures. Because it doesn't depend on the world behaving a certain way. It depends on you, and only you. So here's what you train from now on. Train your facial expressions. Learn to smile without approval and frown without anger. Train your tone, so that even in conflict, your voice sounds like calm judgment. Train your body, so your posture never gives away fear or agitation. And above all, train your inner dialogue, because the voice inside will try to provoke you harder than anyone else. Your own ego will want revenge. Your own pride will demand justice. Your own fear will scream for escape. But none of those voices are your master. You are. If you master that inner storm, the outer world becomes nothing more than noise, background static, while you focus on the signal. If you're ready to weaponize your calm, comment this below. My calm is my armor. My silence is my power. Stop explaining. Stop proving. Stop reacting. Move like the storm that makes no sound until it strikes. Because real control isn't loud, it's invisible. And once you master it, you never lose it. Number 8, becoming the one they can't replace. Most people live their lives as placeholders. They walk into rooms where no one remembers their name. They contribute, but not enough to stand out. They mimic. They repeat. They perform. But the moment they're gone, someone else fills their spot, as if they were never there. That's the cost of being forgettable, of being agreeable, of choosing to be liked over choosing to be legendary. But you're not here for that. You're here to become something else, to build yourself into someone they can't replace. Not because of how loud you are, but because of how precise, how disciplined, how dangerous you've become in silence. You don't build irreplaceability by accident. It's not charisma. It's not luck. It's not being nice. It's strategy. It's silence. It's becoming so damn competent, so composed, so consistent in your execution that removing you would cost them more than they can afford. That's power, not popularity, not clout. Power. And here's what they won't tell you. The system you were raised in was designed to make you replaceable. They taught you to follow rules, follow trends, follow people, to be easy to manage, easy to read, easy to duplicate. You were trained to become a cog, not a force, but you don't rise by blending in. You rise by becoming the standard they can't replicate. You rise by mastering a craft deeper than the surface. You rise by subtracting the noise and refining the edge. While others try to do 100 things just to be noticed, you focus on doing one thing so well that it haunts them. That's the secret. They'll forget the loud ones. But they'll never forget the one who delivered when everything was on the line, the one who stayed calm when others fell apart, the one who didn't ask for credit because excellence was its own reward. To become the one they can't replace, you must detach from needing attention. You must build in silence. You must separate yourself through discipline. You must stop showing up with average energy in rooms where greatness is demanded. You don't need to be the most charming. You need to be the most centered. When others react, you analyze. When others panic, you pause. When others gossip, you disappear. Because you don't chase relevance, you build presence. Presence that lingers, presence that speaks before you do, presence that reshapes the room without a single word. But let's go deeper. You're only as irreplaceable as the weight you carry under pressure. Anyone can show up when it's easy. Anyone can talk like a leader when things are calm. But when chaos hits, who do they look at? Be that person. Be the one who brings order when everything's on fire. Be the one who doesn't flinch, who doesn't blame, who doesn't seek shelter, but becomes it. That's rare. That's what makes you irreplaceable. People think it's about being the best at everything. It's not. It's about being elite at one thing, then becoming known for it. The surgeon doesn't need to be funny. The general doesn't need to be popular. The strategist doesn't need to be loved. What they need is clarity. And what they deliver is certainty. That's your job now. Stop trying to impress. Start aiming to anchor. Be the one people think of when they need stability, when they need execution, when they need truth without emotion, power without noise. Because once people depend on your presence, you've already won. Now listen carefully. The higher you climb, the more you'll be resented. Not everyone wants to see you become irreplaceable because your existence becomes a reminder of what they're not. They'll call you cold. They'll say you changed. They'll accuse you of being distant. But what they won't say, what they'll never say, is how your absence makes the room feel hollow. How your detachment reveals their dependency, how your level of self-respect makes them question their own reflection. You weren't built to be everywhere. You were built to be necessary in very few places, and in those places you make your presence felt through your preparation. They don't see the early mornings. They don't see the sacrificed weekends. They don't see the internal wars you win just to stay on path. But they will feel it when you enter. And they'll feel it even more when you leave. To be clear, this isn't about being perfect. Perfection is fragile. This is about being undeniable in how you think, in how you deliver, in how little you need and how much you bring. If you want to be the one they can't replace, stop asking for a seat at the table. Build your own table, brick by brick, while they're still waiting for permission. And one day, they'll come looking for you. Not because you begged for their validation, but because their system collapsed, without you in it. So show up like you're not looking for a job. You are the job. Move like your absence is a risk to their entire foundation. Operate so precisely, so strategically, that removing you would be a liability, You don't remind them of your value. You become the benchmark. You become the one who sets the pace. And when you disappear, they notice the silence louder than they ever noticed your words. That's irreplaceability. So if you're ready to shed the version of yourself that chased relevance and become the rare force that redefines it, comment this below. They'll feel my absence like a wound that doesn't heal. Let them replicate your tactics. They can study your posture. They can copy your tone, but they can't steal your mind. They can't fake your composure. They can't replace your silence, because that level of power only comes from one place: unbreakable self-mastery. And mastery leaves fingerprints on everything it touches. Every decision, every word, every silence. So remember this: the goal isn't to be known, it's to be needed, not by everyone, just by the few who recognize value when they see it. And when you become that person, the world adjusts around you. No more chasing, no more proving, no more waiting to be seen. You are not just in the room. You are the room. And if they ever forget that, your exit will teach them what your presence made possible. Number 9, the final ascension: detachment, discipline, and total power. Everything you've heard until now has been preparing you for this final step. You've mastered silence. You've sharpened control. You've become unreadable, disciplined, and irreplaceable. But there's one final element left. The element that separates the truly untouchable from everyone else: total detachment. Not just emotional detachment, not just social detachment. I mean complete radical detachment from outcome, identity, reputation, reward. Because here's the most dangerous truth of all: as long as you still need something from the world, they still have a way to control you. If you still need recognition, they can manipulate you with praise. If you still need justice, they can torture you with injustice. If you still need understanding, they can keep you on your knees, begging for clarity that will never come. But when you detach from everything, you gain everything. The less you need, the more you can see. And the less you seek, the more power you project. Understand this: true power does not chase. It does not cling. It does not explain. It simply exists, so fully, so completely, that others must orbit around it. That's what detachment brings. You stop caring about being liked. Wait for next part.